Kula for the CEO of Migogo in Poland, is that right? Magogo. Okay, I'll practice with that. Till Sudworth is from NPAW, Nice People at Work, is the CMO, Sales Director for Central and Central EMEA. Sorry, I made that Central and Eastern Europe, Central EMEA. Okay, right. Next to him, we have Jamie Cook, who's General Manager. The CEE, it's a new one, I mean, the Middle East.
North Africa, Turkey.
Okay, that makes sense. For Warner Brothers Discovery, it almost makes that combination straightforward now. Jakub Strajczak is Marketing Director. Marketing Director, CEO, I've described you here, how is that?
CMO, Marketing Director, definitely not CEO.
Okay, well, you'd be, according to my list, my notes, you've been promoted, so congratulations. From TV Nova here in Prague, and Dominic Christopher, who is Chief Strategy Officer of Blue Entertainment. So welcome to all of you. We're going to be talking about OTT competition. Is there room for new players? You might have learned from our last session that the market is full up of commercial and public broadcasters, but evidence from my television set at home suggests that there's always room for a new player. So we'll look at the opportunities for them, and whether maybe there's advertising revenue out there which can support the niche over-the-top broadcasters, maybe actually some of the existing platforms too, and the kind of success strategies you need for D2C platforms in Europe. So let's get underway. I'll try to start with you and work my way down the line for this first one. Give us a little overview of the market in which you operate and the competitive landscape around you.
Yeah, our company is Ukrainian by origin, so the company has been launched in our country, in Ukraine 12 years ago. Now we are operating in 14 countries, and most recently we have launched in Poland. Due to that I'm here. Because for many years Megogo was looking at the eastern part of the world, but obviously because of obvious reasons we had to change our optic, and we turned around, and now we are looking at the western part of Europe, and Poland is the first step. Of course we are looking at other markets, believing that there is still room for OTT. With our offering, we have quite long experience on this field in several countries, so we believe in proper place and in these markets where we are now looking at.
And if I was to subscribe, what would I see?
Well, our key market is, of course, Ukraine for now. We are number one pay TV player. Gathering rights for SVOD, TVOD, of course, and we have audiobooks and podcasts as well, so quite big operation. But of course, in case of other countries, our operation is much smaller. We lost one of big market because of obvious reason, because of the war. So we are turned off our operation in Russia a year ago.
And just to focus in on that, reaching the Ukrainian market, is it destruction of the infrastructure, or is it more economy related?
Well, both, in fact. At the beginning we had issues even to find our employees in the first couple of weeks, and now everybody is working as strong as possible. The company is hiring over 700 people. And I would love to say that they are based in Kiev, but they are not. And we are working in many countries, in many cities. And for example, I have not met for a year many people of my team in person because it's not possible just on the street. So we are in full speed to develop.
Tell me about Nice People at Work, particularly how we came up with the name. I'm going to get asked that question by everybody, by the way.
Yeah, actually we had a rebranding like 2 years ago, and we now call it itself NPO, but Nice People at Work is basically, well, it's the acronym for Nice People.
Yeah, it's been a similar answer, just phrase the question differently.
Basically it was the two founders when they founded the company, company, and was a Wi-Fi password. And I thought it's a good idea to name the company like that.
Okay, fair enough. Jamie, tell us about your patch, as it were. And also, I suppose I feel obliged to ask this for anybody from Warner Brothers Discovery. As to which bit you were in before, you'll tell us you're all one company now, I know. But it helps explain the evolution a little bit, I think.
Sure. So I'm from Discovery. That's my background. I've been at the company a long time, 17 years. It feels like a new company every couple of years, to be honest.
New company every day.
Yeah, we're definitely going through that experience now. I walked into my new role a year ago, and the conversation was about a merger between two companies, right? It's not. There's a merger between 7 companies. Once you get under the skin, all the different divisions of the business that I'm responsible for, from theatrical, streaming, linear channels, free-to-air and pay, games, consumer products, and trying to create a coherent strategy and kind of vision for that is the task. Really,
Yeah, challenge, I'm sure. Jakob, TV Nova.
Yeah, so what can I say about TV Nova? In this moment, I'm sitting here like a member of the media group TV Nova, representing one of the largest media group, commercial media group on the market, providing 10 linear channels, largest SVOD platform, VOYO on our market, and for us, we are the member of CM Group that are providing the leaders of the market, 6 of the market. So this can be described as who is my employee. Yeah. So, and my role in the company is easy. I'm team leader of the marketing team. If TV needs more viewers, it's our job. If VOYO needs more subscribers, it's our job. If we need more subscribers for our page channels, it's our job. So we are sitting on the side of the BTC acquisition, and the earnings, the money we give to options to our sales department. So we are creating the performance inside of the share ratings on the markets. This is our role.
Okay, and finally Dominic.
Yeah, good afternoon. I was working good. Perhaps a bit of background. Blue Entertainment is probably not really popular here, so we are 100% subsidiary of Swisscom, the telco incumbent in Switzerland, and we operate an entire entertainment ecosystem, I would call it. So we have the biggest TV platform in Switzerland with approximately 40% market share. We operate our own pay TV packages. We are also integrating all the third-party streamers, as you know them. We have our own cinema chain, a news platform, and we're in the music business. So it's a very broad entertainment portfolio. And as you said, Jamie, we're also looking for what is the real strategy to combine all those different entertainment fields to gain a better experience for all our customers and to make use of all those data we collect.
And looking at the market, and I guess it's a question for any one of you really, that looking at the market as it stands, it's going to vary obviously from territory to territory. Is there space? Does anybody think that there is a space anywhere for another international player or another big regional player, or is it just small little niches who are going to have success? Who would like to pick on this? I'll look at Joe. Two volunteers. Let's start with Jamie then.
We have big player and small.
Difference of opinion.
Give it a couple of years. Jamie first.
I think the first thing to say is that it is so competitive out there, and it's quite hard to know what the right strategy and who's going to win, because it is very chaotic as well as competitive. I think that the last panel said a lot of it actually, right? So you have people like us coming in with global products, and there are more and more of those trying to enter the market. You have free-to-airs in individual countries trying to do what they're doing, as the last panel talked about. I think the real question is, what are you trying to achieve? Right? So for us as a OTT platform, I think the game's really shifted in the last couple of years, and it's not just about subs anymore. So the question for me is, how do you build something that is sustainable from a profitability perspective? And I think you can see internationally that's a real challenge, and there's a lot of scrutiny on international players around those couple of metrics. So I think if you're coming at it from that perspective, I think it's very difficult for another big streamer to come in. I think that it's just so crowded, and so I think that's part of it.
Are there too many big streamers even now?
I don't think we know. I think this is one of the challenges, particularly for Central Europe, actually, because in Central Europe we don't see a lot of cord cutting yet, not significant, like we've seen in other markets. We know that consumers are very price sensitive, so I just don't think we know the answer to it yet. We don't really know how many subscriptions people are willing to pay for.
And I guess, well, in Norway quite a few we learned, but I guess if you're an international player, whoever that might be, I'm not thinking of anybody particularly, genuinely not, but if you're an international player and you're not doing so well in a couple of markets, it probably won't matter because you'll be doing really well in a couple of other markets.
I think that's right. I think it's about the ecosystem. I really believe that. I think that it's not about the local players versus the international players. I think the secret sauce is when you can get it all together. So if you can combine a strong free-to-air with local content and then strong international content, I think that's what consumers want, right? And they want to be able to access that however they want to access it. So I think the companies that can figure that part out, the combination, that's the way to success.
And I guess we know that for the linear world, channels of similar genres can exist side by side. For example, Eurosport, one of your properties now, and a couple of owners, I don't know, the past 20, 30 years or so, that has happily coexisted alongside, in basic or extended basic, it's happily coexisted alongside the big premium sports channels, ESPN and Sky Sports, whatever the market might be. So it kind of suggests that a similar sort of thing can also happen within streaming.
I think so, yeah. I think so. I think the question is the tolerance of the consumer to have things bundled or unbundled. I think this is the question. I just don't think we know enough.
Or bundled for them, I guess. We could go full circle, I suppose, at some point. Tell me from your perspective of the slightly smaller operation, then I'll come to you, Dominic, afterwards.
I'm just a little bit more pessimistic, to be honest. I think we see a big content bubble at the moment. There is definitely not more room for new players. I think there are too many players at the moment in the market. When you see, let's say, the last months, what happened at the stock exchanges, what happened to profitability pressure on those companies, what we saw already on M&A activities, it's just a consequence of basically too much supply. I don't think that AVOD is the answer for every problem in this segment. So I think in maximum of 3 or 4 years we'll have completely other discussions than today.
So you think you're saying that over that period of time, over the 3 to 4 years, that's when, and I guess people, whatever they say in public behind the scenes, there will be planning for, okay, if our subs hit this level, we do this. If our subs hit this level, we do this. And if our subs go down here, we run, basically.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Okay, to you now.
Yeah. My opinion is a bit opposite. We would not be investing into Poland and will not be looking at other markets if we don't believe in OTT, in the future of OTT, other propositions in our markets, in this market. So our opinion is that is based on our experience, of course, from a different country like Ukraine. If you probably remember one of the slides from the presentations in the morning on the screen, where Ukraine was probably the country with the lowest penetration of set-top boxes, and probably because of that, the success of Megago in this country was so huge because we gave people total freedom, total independence from everywhere, because they were not be obligated to be connected to any cable or DTH platform. Probably that was the answer. Of course, when we look at other countries of Europe, this penetration is much higher. And what we are facing in Poland is the habit to have set-top box at home, and that is something obligatory, I would say. But we believe that giving people a really great proposition in terms of linear TV channels plus VOD plus all other content I mentioned already, this is the proper solution for near future. Because it doesn't matter it's about SVOD or pay TV. Linear TV, I believe strongly that they will not die. And our proposition is combination of all of that. This is something what is in the future. Total freedom. You can watch when you want, where you want, and without any conditions. So due to that, I believe that if the technology plus content are fine, there is a room for other players, like us, for example.
Yeah, just wanted to add, I think it really depends, as you said, if you look at the Western European countries or the more Eastern, it's a completely different ballpark, I think. In the Western European countries, the market's much more saturated than it is in the Eastern Europe, so there might be places for new players in Eastern Europe, right? So it really depends on the different countries. What we see in our data, and we track like 15 billion video plays every month. What we see is that also the total amount of plays are increasing worldwide in every country, but what is decreasing is the amount of plays that a single user uses a specific single product. So the usage per platform is decreasing globally in every country, more or less, or every region of the world. So that's exactly what you mentioned, right? It's a fierce competition out there, and the war for the eyeballs is so intense that, of course, all of us has a certain amount of time to spend for video consume, and that won't increase. So if there are more players than there are now, logically the amount of share for every player will decrease. And the question is that's still profitable, right?
And I guess we have to, based on earlier this afternoon, we have to add TikTok almost into the mix as a time-consuming service, very enjoyable time-consuming service, to the extent that it's one which will take away from some TV channels at least.
Yeah, especially for the younger audience, right? I mean, the younger audience, they don't watch any D-Word at all. They don't watch any linear TV at all. So they're consuming these platforms, and as I said, they need to integrate them in the amount of usage as well. Yeah.
Just on the market saturation, I guess it's one of these instances where, because I live in the UK, I'm spoiled for choice. There are markets in Europe where not all of the big beasts are available yet, because they haven't quite built. So that sort of changes the dynamic a little bit as well.
It does a little bit, but if you look, I mean, as I said, European market is completely heterogeneous, but what we all have kind of in common that we are, almost every market is dominated by Netflix and YouTube, right? Then there might be number 3, which is another big US brand like Disney, and then you have a few public or broadcaster OTT platforms, a lot of in the Western European countries.
So you're saying generally the public and commercial broadcasters, their streaming services, 3rd, 4th, 5th place in most markets.
Most markets, yeah, of course. Specifically the public broadcasters, right? I mean, pretty strongly you look to the UK, BBC, Germany, ZDF, ARD, Italy, like Uno. So basically they are right behind it. So I mean, and there will be another US company maybe coming to European markets. So you never know. It's, I mean, you have something to announce as well, maybe. So
now's the time to announce anything. The last session before we end, so you can run.
I would like to add something because you mentioned I forgot who mentioned Netflix and YouTube as key players in the market, but they both do not provide linear TV. On the other hand, I've heard before the previous session that linear TV is still quite strong. So if we have in our proposition linear TV plus VOD, this is probably the solution for streaming services in OTT. Because, of course, the big players are the big players, but they do not provide the television in their services.
But to be honest, the total entertainment consumption has risen in the last years, of course. It's a combination of linear TV and all those streaming services. But if you deep dive into those different segments, for example, the younger audience, there you see a clear shift towards streaming. So live TV, of course, for sports and for shows, okay, but not for the rest of the content, to be honest. And the problem will be in the future, as we already spoke about it, what is your business model? Do you have to earn it like as a standalone for the streaming? Can you subsidize somehow? I mean, what you didn't mention is Amazon. Amazon has a completely different strategy. And so for those players who are really, let's say, dependent on the streaming subscription revenues, it will be really difficult, I think.
Jakob, do you worry that in the streaming world, that TV Nova's online offering is, below the likes of Netflix, where you've enjoyed much success in the video environment?
I probably show some little bit different point of view, because I drastically disagree with the guys. Maybe we say it's a good direction. let's see about it. That everything started with the fact that volume of the consumption habit with the media, with the content grows. Yeah? Just is changed the consumption habit of the users. Yeah, I don't know if chicken or eggs will be first. Definitely COVID helped us. Yeah? People stay home and watch everything what was possible and find the beauty of Netflix. But in the end of the day, it's just about content. So let's see it on the current acquisition strategy. Yeah? Okay, big players taking advantages of the big creators of the international movies. How many adventures, how many Spider-Mans can be created? If it's possible, yes, India market probably. It's many times. But they utilize such a thing. Okay, it's international market. But still, OTT is just definition that customer wants to watch something and this is maybe shortcut. Why you need cable or satellite? If you just run internet and you have it. So it's about demand from the consumers. So until the moment when people want something, you are able to deliver. So if you want content, you're looking the way how to deliver. And just the looking way how to do money from them. Advertising, subscription. So I'm still thinking that in this market is some money. Yeah. And let's back into the customer acquisition strategy. It's about unique content that you are not able to get it anywhere else. Yeah, library, come on, switch it time to time. Yeah, production, co-production. But what is a unique? Wednesday. Yeah, Star Wars. What I mentioned, you already know what platform will be streamed. So this is the advantages of the international. Local. Keep it what is your strongest. Local content, base, and society, everything. No one else. So yes, still is space until the moment when you are able to entertain people. Yeah.
It's quite interesting when commercial broadcasters and streamers come into a local market in Europe, gobble up all the American imports. Actually, for some of the public broadcasters, that's almost an advantage that they've done so, because they're left to adjust their homegrown originated content, which is often such a success for them.
Yeah, but in the end, the unique content is a now clear acquisition strategy for all of us.
The problem is just in those segments who are really keen to watch those things you mentioned, they are not loyal.
Yes, of course. But it's exactly
the problem is you have a massive churn at the OTT players.
Yeah, I agree. But maybe this question is not ended just in the content creator and just the creator of platform and content. In the end of the day today, so many unique content, so many platforms. Who will be next player? Somebody who collecting, who sorting, aggregators. It's maybe Google. They are our biggest competitors for all of us. Because Seznam, so many people created content and you have a homepage of Seznam. We just collect everything and indexing. So where ended the OTT? Maybe it's a Google, it's next player. You can see the steps 2 weeks ago. The Android TV started the free terrestrial channels, 800 I think, just the switches. Yeah, fast TV is maybe future. So I'm not able just to put the OTT into the small boxes like this one next to the
I care about the technical delivery model. My first message was just when I see just, okay, what is the demand and what is the supply overall? I think there is it's not a balance at the moment. this has to be like sorted out in the future.
I think that you said it well actually, that there is in each country I think there is scope for something very local, one or two probably international streaming services to support that, and maybe something like Amazon where there is actually a different strategy. The question is how do you become one of those players, right? And what we've seen is that actually if you think about what HBO Max is, and you think about what Discovery Plus is, they're actually quite niche products. It's a very particular audience segment, right? So what the strategy we've now got is to combine them into Max, which has obviously been announced and launching in the US soon. So you have content like the HBO content that will really draw subscribers in, but then to your point, you don't need to keep them. And what we know from Discovery Plus is it's harder to get consumers to subscribe to that. Once they're in, there's a great wealth of content. So your point is right, the content is king, but I think scale is really important as well.
Frequency. Yeah, just what we can see then. It's big difference between big movie, it costs a lot of money, and series 3 episodes and 52. It's about quality, content, it's high frequency. Yeah? Because in other hands, it's the loyalty of the people. If you have a choice, you switch off, of course, you change. It's still everything is around 200 grams, just selected. And now I think that the index is 1.8, the number of services in Czech Republic. I think that if you go to the little bit to the north, it will be approximately 2.8 or something. I'm not expert in this area. But this is still doesn't mean if I see that the future it will be on north of Europe, I still have one services can add. Local base, international base, I'm not sure. Yeah? But what we see is in the volume and frequency of usage. Yeah? That Netflix, and it's a different story. A lot of content, you don't know what you pick up before you start. You spend 22 minutes to select what you will be seeing. In voice, it's a bit differently, they're using the advantages of linear. That you already know what you want to see because TV say what you can expect it. Yeah? The Disney Plus is a nice example. It was one of the last of them, and previous buyers of the services was mostly women from 60%. It was really nice. It was designed for them. Disney Plus, younger men and kids. It was something like a guilty pleasure.
We meant for the sci-fi, kids for Mickey Mouse.
And you say, I need, and of course, if I watch everything, my kids will have some other yacht, animation, and other stories. So, and again, it's still see the space. Yeah? And of course, the acquisition is one of the most expensive things. The strategy, how keeping frequency, high daily usage, maybe we can use in the e-commerce, daily usage is important. We see that there's a big difference between choice in working days and in Saturday, Sunday. That it's existing day and time slot where you're looking at better content, where you want selecting something better, what you can fully focus. YouTube is nice. You have bit penetration in the middle day or working day and playing playlists like music or other. It's like coulisses, something like on the behind of the scene, don't be alone, etc. Classically nurtured really similar proposals in the heads of the people. So, sorry.
No, I'll come to the art in a moment. I quickly want to clarify something with Jamie, for those not familiar with the plan ahead, if you like, for Discovery or Discovery Plus and HBO Max. One service called Max, incorporating everything with no ability just to subscribe to Discovery, or is that yet to be said?
I think it's yet to be said. The US launch is imminent, and the intention is to combine into one service. There may be some, we don't want to leave any subscribers behind, right, as we go through that, so there may be Discovery Plus existing for a period of time in the US. That's a discussion that's happening, but I think the longer term view is one service.
And of course it gets complicated because some territories have HBO Max in the UK, and I think France, maybe somewhere else there isn't, and so on and so forth. But I'm sure somebody on that is not my job. We'll unwind that one for everybody. Till wanted to come in, I think.
Just wanted to comment. I think the acquisition of new users is one thing. I think the bigger challenge is to keep the users. As we see in the data that meanwhile the users are not following the brand of the platform, they're more following the content. Right? So that means that if the series is watched, they're willing to churn and to move on to the next subscription or the next platform, watching content there. For example, even with sport content, we see when the season's over, big challenge is not only to get new users, but to keep them.
And that's what Jakob was talking about, subscriber acquisition costs. And the new world where you can opt in and out of services once a month means those subscriber acquisition costs or subscriber bring-back costs maybe are going to increase.
Yeah, we have the subscriber acquisition cost like 2, 3, 4 times, right? Because you need to re-engage them.
What is also very crucial are partnerships with, let's say, carriers in the markets. We see it in Switzerland as well. I mean, what is one of the reasons why Netflix has such an unbelievable penetration? Yeah, they have good agreements with Swisscom, with Sunrise, with every telco. And the question is, of course, it's so complicated for the end consumer to understand what kind of content do you find on which platform at the moment. So they need some kind of guidance. And the question is, who gives this guidance? So who has the control over the customer at the end of the day? At the moment, it's the aggregation platform who can also recommend content, who can give to those customers specific promotions that are not in the market, for example, as well. And so I think this is also key about the topic of partnerships.
I think that's really true. I mean, with the HBO, the success of that has really come from partnerships, right? And therefore having that kind of first mover advantage in the market. And I think the question for Central Europe particularly is back to the comment I made earlier, which is what is the tolerance for the number of subscriptions here, right? We just don't really know. 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't know. And if cord cutting isn't happening, those partnerships are vital.
I found that there's some stats for the number of TV sets in the house where you have like more people with 3 than have 1, and that sort of thing. But there is, as you say, it's a Donald Rumsfeld unknown or something similar. How do these operators then make themselves more sustainable? Jakob, what do you think that people can do in order to maintain themselves in the marketplace? Is the advertising
operators what kind or on the side of the consumer?
I guess both really. I think particularly keeping the consumer subscribing is the key thing.
Yeah, I think that maybe this is not going to be correct answer, but the number of the services that you have in the house probably don't will be grow into infinite mode. And approximately 3, probably you have your favorites that have enough frequency content or I have to say PS satisfaction level probably really high, but you're willing to switch on position 2 and 3. You permanently will be switch how the competitors looking not in the of opportunity, but seasonality. We already now see how it's split into the launch of the new format before holiday, before Christmas. But everyone looking to space. Yeah. So I'm already using the 3-4 services, not just because it's my store, but yes, I see that it's a new season of the sea on Apple, and I don't know watching anything else, so I just pay and watch it. Yeah. So in the end of the day, it's again on the willing to pay or number of the free money on this kind of entertainment on the side of the consumers. And this is not unpredictable. We can say that our, so say, between 300 and 600, this mean 100 disproportion. So let's say nothing. But what everything we will be able to buy per this money, I'm not sure at this moment. Now it's switching between services. The future is probably exactly somebody who collect the new ones. If we go, I know, sorry, this is no one from Netflix, I can use our data, that everything starts in each platform on a new one on the platform, newly, because it's too much that you're looking just new ones. Maybe aggregator who put everything just new in this week on the platforms. This can cost just 200 Czech crowns because it not needs, let's say, more library and help you in your life cycle.
No, just one comment. Let's do the math. You said like there is room like for 3 or 4 players. Just count how many players are already today in the market. In Switzerland, I guess it's let's say 10 more or less relevant players. So either, okay, it's true there are 3 or 4 in the future. What happens with the other 6 or 7 that are currently in the market? Do they disappear, or what is your answer on this one?
I would probably a little bit say that you don't have true because, okay, we can see YouTube, we like one of them, but if I see how the people YouTube, they have channels, extras, So YouTube is.
I wouldn't compare YouTube with Netflix.
So just as players.
As for players, yeah.
I say, again, it's about content, and you have just a limited time for specific content. Yeah, it's about not about money. It's about that you have just 2.5 hours per day, but such a kind of entertainment between 2 o'clock and 9 or 10. If you are a working guy, if you are working in the office, even less. Yeah. So
you have to wonder actually if it's possible for any consumer to get proper value out of what they're.
I think it's important, Julian, what you mentioned with TikTok. One of the first interviews of Reed Hastings from Netflix was, "What is your biggest competitor?" He said Twitch. So we're not only competing against other esport players. So it's like, okay, with what do you spend your free time? Social media gets bigger and bigger. TikTok is one example. You also have less time for, let's say, esport, especially in the younger audiences.
This can bring us to the danger water, because if I will be seller of bikes, I said they have some issue. I fight for their free time rather than selling the boots. But I understand from you, and you're right.
But I think that we have to, as players, in running OTT platform, we have to be careful regarding the consumer experience on the platform. If we deliver proper solution, recommendation, all that stuff, the consumer will stay with us. What we are observing, this is interesting observation, that there is a group of people who is not really able or not willing to search for content. They are, we call them lazy viewers. It's a huge group of people, believe me, and they don't want to go even to YouTube to search for something. They don't want to spend, I've seen the research from US, average decision time to take the decision what to watch is about 45 minutes in the family. So in fact, the family...
45?
Yes.
You were saying 22 early on?
Yeah, what I've seen from US it's 45. It's like if you lose one episode.
I was going to say 45 minutes, like a US drama series without the adverts.
Exactly. To choose what to watch. So a lot of conflicts, etc. So what we observe is the same. And believe me or not, we created from our SVOD content, we created linear channels on our platform to give people the solution immediately.
So linear channels or fast channels? And I know
linear channel from SVOD content.
Okay.
So people can go to...
So eventually starting at 7 o'clock, and they're starting at 8 o'clock there.
And they are built by our editors, and they choose the genre and all these movies inside. And it does work, and it does work because of another solution. You can go into the channel and watch the movie which is proposed by us, but you can go 7 days back and 7 days forward to choose. And the process of decision is much shorter, which is great experience, I believe, especially in current time. So this is one thing which is giving the audience better opportunity.
And do they then drift into the main service, or do they stay lazy and watch the nightly offering?
But of course, if we catch them for 1, 2nd, 3rd movie, of course they start to search something more. So this is interesting observation. We even gather content from YouTube, from some bloggers, and created content thematic on the internet, like 80 channels, because there is a group of people who is really lazy to look for. Like for example, fishing. There are people interested in it, and we created a linear channel about fishing only, because they were too lazy to look for it.
Not too lazy to even go fishing on the film website.
That's for sure. So due to that, I'm really focused on the linear channels which are still alive, because there are people who simply are really tired because of searching. So this is one of the solutions. And from the wider perspective, it's all about the experience, customer experience, which should be the best.
I do think that that idea around niche, curated content for people, fishing or whatever it might be, cooking. Yeah. I think it works, but I think it only works inside a much broader proposition.
So within a fast channel, there's like a whole Wales of Gordon Ramsay material.
Within a acknowledge whether the streaming services has a sort of wide offering. I think that it's very challenging for someone to come in with a very niche content offering. I mean, as I said earlier, we had to Discovery Plus HBO Eurosport, right? And at the end of the day, they are quite niche in what they do. So the logic is to combine them in some way. I mean, you do have others, I guess. I quite like Shudder, for example. ABC Horror streaming platform has about 1 million subscribers, I believe. But they're playing a different game, right? They're not playing a profitability.
It's interesting. When digital came around the first time, when we were going from analog to digital, it was always going to be lots of different niche channels for this, for that. It's going to be just like a magazine. And actually, what we got, with respect, and I do mean this, was Discovery and others just adding, if you like, EPG real estate. And I wonder, to your point, it's actually that was the most sensible thing to do, because really having your cooking or your fishing as part of a slightly broader offering of lifestyle or whatever is better than having 500 goodness knows channels all with independent production companies trying to squeeze more their library out.
I mean, that's what we think, yeah.
Dominic, local content. Doesn't work always in Switzerland, does it? Even though I guess you'd expect it to.
I mean, I wouldn't say it doesn't work at all, but it's difficult at least for, let's say, more than one or max two subscription services. There's not like the demand, I would say. There were some exceptions, yes, but is it like a business where you really earn money? It's a nice like add-on for, let's say, all those broadcasters. The question is how they gain new subscribers, but also transform, let's say, the customers who are also watching linear to those services. But again, I mean, if they charge money for this service, it's also in competition with all the international streamers, and then we come to the point again, how many subscriptions do you want to have at the same time? And again, even if there are 5 per household or per user, it will be difficult. So the question is, okay, is there like room rather consolidate also the national markets, to have like one national champion, to have also scale, to have cost synergies and so on, to have at least one profitable player, or is it still very fragmented as in most of the European countries at the moment?
I guess local players, if there are to be local players in a market, in most territories, they'll already be there. There's not, some local. I'm speaking from a position where my local news programme has been axed by the BBC. So, but there are reductions in some because the linear service isn't necessary because there's the ability to see it on demand or simply to read on a website. Is that true, or is there more opportunity for locals?
Not talking about our service, but my experience from Polish market. We are talking about Netflix as an international player, but to be very honest, when Netflix came to our market, they came out as an international player with international or US production, but now probably they are the biggest local producer in Poland, and they have changed completely the production market because they invested a lot of money into local series, local movies. It was completely changed. Now the producers are really busy with new content because other players started to produce again and again new content. So this is interesting.
The vision of the tide for all boats,
the scale of production is unbelievable. But other players like HBO produced great content here in Czech Republic, which was extremely popular in Poland as well because it's much more local than US. So I believe that Netflix now is a great combination of international and local production. This is something very unique because we haven't seen it before.
And when local productions, are these productions that are filmed in Poland and feel Polish, with the characters, or is it just let's take this script we've got, translate it into Polish and film it in Warsaw?
One thing is, for example, I think the first or the second, Netflix signed a contract with well-known global writer Adam Cohen, and his first or second TV series based on his book was produced in Poland. it was completely changed into Polish reality. On the other hand, the local Polish production is done about Polish heroes, Polish characters in Poland directly, without any reversioning or something. So they do really a mixture of the production. It's a very interesting approach.
I think it depends who does the local production. I mean, every time I hear those examples from Netflix, like, I don't know, Narcos. Yes, this can happen, this can work out if you scale. It's again the question of scaling of the content. But if you have really like a regional player or a local player, let's say if I would now produce a mini-series about Swiss mountains, I don't know if it would be like really successful in international markets, to be honest. And so it depends who's really like covering what kind of territory, and of course what costs behind all those productions.
I think that's right. For us, it's really about finding local content that can also travel. So, for example, we have a new series, Spy Master, coming out soon, which is the story of a fictional character who defects from Romania to the US under the regime of Ceausescu. And it's a German/Romanian production, but so it has a very local angle, but because a lot of it's filmed in English, there are US actors in it as well, you can start to see that. I think that's the kind of stuff that we're interested in, because it can exist, be relevant locally, but also travel. I just think it's really hard to do it. I don't think there are many examples that you can list, to be honest, where content has been made in a local, whatever that means, market, and then spread beyond that market. It's a hard game.
You were asking the question, if there's a place or room for a new player, and might that be local content? But I think even that area is taken already, right? I mean, we have the broadcasters, the national broadcasters, they produce tons of local content, right? And they also have an OTT platform, they also have an OTT offer, a BVOD offer. So I think even there, the local content area, besides of Netflix and all the other players, as we just discussed, they also produce content and local content. So I think even there, the space is taken. I think even there, the market is pretty close.
About 10 minutes left of our session. If there's any questions for our panellists, I will take them at this particular point. Do we have anything? Microphone is on its way. If we didn't have to see anybody. There we are. Let's see a hand.
We spoke about TikTok, we spoke about YouTube Shorts. I'm a 42-year-old man. I was in my hotel room yesterday. I got entrenched in just swiping on YouTube Shorts, and I had stuff downloaded to watch from Netflix, from BritBox, from iPlayer. So how do you guys? I'm not young. How do you guys compete with that?
Who wants to take that?
Well, the question was just before gin and tonics.
Right, we've got 10 minutes.
I know it's not a question to ask.
No. I'll give the panel time to think clearly at this point. What would be your answer to your own question?
You mentioned Narcos. I've missed flights. I've missed a flight because I got entrenched in Narcos. So the content market to me feels very fragmented. There's various forms of content now. The short form is really kicked off. You've got your really kind of high-end production, long form content as well, and then everything in the middle. And it's a question, I don't know whether it's a question of how content is promoted to the consumer, because if content was promoted better, maybe I would have been actually utilising my SPOT apps.
I think that there is, it kind of goes to the last part of the discussion about the relevance of linear still, right? I still think there are opportunities for water cooler moments, right, around content. And I think what you're kind of describing is just the challenge for us, right, which is to create better content that's more compelling. You have to want to still, regardless of when you can watch it on an SVOD service, you still want to be having to watch it that day because people are going to talk about it. I I think that's the answer. The problem is, to your point, it comes at a cost, a marketing cost, and it also comes at a price in terms of the amount of shows you have to make to create that. You know? So I don't know. I don't think there's a simple answer to it, but I think the answer probably is content.
I try one answer. First point that relates also to the partnerships, how you promote content. So of course you have to be top of mind on let's say each touch point where you can find your potential audience. The second thing is for us, let's say for our pay TV packages, it's not a problem with swiping. I mean, we use social media especially also for ads, but to promote our packages. And so, for example, if you don't want to miss the goal in a Champions League match, you have to watch the whole clip, basically. And we work with, let's say, new kinds of advertising material, so not that you have to watch the whole clip and then there is like, you can book it there and there. It's like there's an L banner on the screen, on the clip. And lastly, what was it again? Third point to your question. Regarding types of content. I don't know if you're familiar with Quibi. Quibi was a new service launched by very, very, very famous executives from the entertainment industry. It was backed by a lot of money, and it was like the idea, okay, to have like really high quality short form content. It was hyped, it was okay, that's the new Netflix on the go, and I think it was like 6 months or something.
Quibi, but Roku ended up buying the content they'd made, I seem to remember.
But the service is terminated.
The service is not there, that's
the story. So what I want to say, I mean, not everything is working out. The problem was, of course, that they launched the mobile proposition during COVID. So bad timing, I would say, for this product as well. But it's what I want to say. It's hard. It's not only sufficient to have a good idea, to have like the talent, the people, the money, because the market is so saturated. And I like the idea of having like a new kind of content, and not just like a Me Too product. But the question is, and this relates also to the type of content. How much risk do you have? I mean, I'm not wondering that we have only prequels, sequels, and so on. We're not talking now about content strategy, but it's also a part how you attract people. And if you want to if you want to hedge your risk regarding content, you see, okay, what is working, and the whole thing about innovative content is, in my opinion, it's only like the secondary question.
Okay, I think we've sort of answered that one. There's a gentleman, I think, with a black shirt who had a question. We don't have a microphone across there. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Corey from Brussels Media. It has been partially answered now on Hitler's question, but I think the question is more on what are the measures you're taking besides marketing, which is generic kind of promotion of your content, to avoid being forgotten. And I think this is a little bit, what Hitesh was kind of, referring to is kind of, you don't know that you want to watch something from a particular service. So is there anything in your strategy that you try to bring users back to your service more frequently and more targeted, I would say?
Yes, I can probably take it. So, yes, it's basically a basic of our job. Get new ones and don't losing what we already have and have how frequent I am. So, I don't want to go into some boring details that you can imagine. That basically, the people watching, going into the platform for specific content. If you are able to launch more content, the frequency will be higher. In the same moment, you need to teach them to watch other content that you have. Already was mentioned the content, international, local. Each type of content has even one role in the platform. You can see that for Royal, I can say it because I don't like speaking about competitors. The advanced streaming of the TV formats is one of the reasons why they acquired them. I forgot, without advertisement, something like hygiene for the segment. Second thing is a library. It's more frequent. If you don't get new something what you already watching, like series, have hundreds of, but every week new episode, you need how to fulfill the time. The average time on work per week is 11 hours. So they didn't consume just one thing. So the library is a frequency. And what's make us a better, like the brand booster, it's origins. It's something where we invest really much. We know that we never acquire enough people for it, but we know that it's something that makes us better, like in the eyes of the viewers. And on the other hand, the marketing is about simple thing. Where I get the new viewers, new consumers, I need to go to the place where they are already there. Yeah? So, TikTok. I am able to give them the content directly and get the money. If not, it will be just advertising space. But we need audience, so let's go into the places where audience is already there and just find a way. It's about business. How close I can then deliver the content and take the money from advertising, from subs, maybe just for free. If I don't find a way, I will be utilizing like advertising space. Maybe TikTok is better. We know that our TV channels are cradle of the stars. Remember how many members of the Love Island or MasterChef you know 5 years ago? Probably no one, but now you know the names. So maybe we can support it something like influencer star. It's just that people can meet your brand on the place where they are already there. We know that people don't switch from TikTok onto the other platforms. They are just consuming the hundreds of content. Yeah? So sorry, this will be probably my answer.
I think this probably strays a little bit away from the topic around the panel on OTT. The way I think about it, in addition to the things you mentioned around marketing, I think the way that we approach it is, whether it's right or wrong, is to start to look at where you don't have your content. Right? So we've signed deals in the US, for example, for fast channels, and we're putting some of the HBO content on there, like Westworld, etc. So it's places where we don't have content today. Alongside the promotion you have to do. I also think we think about it from an IP perspective. So something like Backwards, for example, which is the new kids cartoon. For us, we think about that as how does it sell toys, right? And how do you create a cross promotion around retail and then the content that you're creating? So for me, it comes back to, of course, all the things you've mentioned in terms of marketing, but how do you make sure you put your content where consumers actually are? And how do you approach your content from a franchise perspective?
I'll come to you in a moment, Dominic. It reminded me of something that the BBC had a few years ago. The phrase was 360-degree commissioning, and the premise was basically when we do a show, what else can we do with the show? Is there a podcast opportunity? Can we do a spin-off show? Can we put something on BBC Two after it's finished? And that sort of thing. And I guess, adding in the retail opportunities that obviously you have on there.
It's still the same game, just more platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. Dominic, sorry, go ahead.
Just one topic we didn't talk about, but is still important for let's say, the title of this panel session. The fragmented the market, the more the customer is eager to have like a one-stop shop again, so like the good old times. And what we see in the internet is that piracy gains momentum at the moment. And this is something where I'm really afraid, especially in the younger audiences. There are really nice portals where you find any content from any streamer in a dashboard with no login, nothing, and this is a threat for the entire industry.
I wonder if looking up at our sort of title here, is there room for new players? I wonder if the answer that we have is yes, but not very much. Is that sort of like a consensus of sorts on that? Yes, we are in agreement. See, we've solved all the problems.